Good evening and welcome everyone to the first edition of the Virtual Governing Members Lounge. Clearly, we're not live. We had a little bit of technology challenges, as may happen when you're trying the first thing for the first time in a new world. So we're going to have a bit of a pre-recorded conversation today. Again, if anyone has sent questions in to the offstage@bsomusic.org email address, I will do my best to make sure that I ask them, and then we will do our best to try to work out some of these technological kinks and get back to a live stream for our next week's program. But let's start. Where are we? So again, I'm Allison Burr-Livingston. I'm the BSO's Vice President of Development, and I'm your moderator and apparently not great tech connector for this evening. So thank you again for your patience. Some of you may recognize my surroundings. But rest assured, I'm alone. I've come armed with my Clorox wipes, gloves, and mask, and I have received official permission to be able to stream to you tonight from the beautiful Joseph Meyerhoff Symphony Hall, which is too eerily quiet these days. So, what is the Virtual Governing Members Lounge? Well, many of our donors and friends of the BSO know that our donor lounges are really places for special connections and exclusive artist conversations. And an occasional glass of wine. Especially after all of that fun, I poured one. Feel free to join me and do the same. So really during these times of unprecedented social distancing, we felt that it was important not only to find ways to maintain those connections with our donors, but to share insightful and exciting interactive content. Again, we'll get better on the interactive piece with every single member of our BSO family. So each week, special guests are going to join me or a fellow member of BSO staff if I get fired after failing on the Twitter Live.
Oh, no.
In thoughtful conversation. Thank you, Marin. So that way you can hear their stories and perspectives, and again, in future, be able to ask and have your own questions answered. So really, in looking at how we're going to kick this off, it seemed only fitting that we started with you, wonderful guests this evening. As we all know, we were due to perform this Saturday, Marin, under your baton, a wonderful program, including the world premiere of a new composition by our wonderful guest, London-born, Grammy-nominated composer, former BSO composer in residence, if I am correct, Anna Clyne. A piece called Color Fields, which was, I believe, commissioned by Bonnie McElvin Hunter in the inspiration of Melanie Sablehouse. So I'm sure we'll hear a little bit more about both of those strong women later on through this conversation. So again, just as Marin and Anne, I know you guys have a rich history of collaboration. While I'm so sorry that we couldn't hear that wonderful new composition this weekend, first of all, I believe we will. We're going to work hard to get that rescheduled when we get up and running again. But we thought there should be nothing stopping us from having a conversation. So officially welcome. And thank you for bearing with us in all of our technological fun.
Thank you. It's great to be here with you both.
Yeah, and it's great to see everybody. Anna, I'm so sorry that we couldn't get the piece up and running this week, but I promise that it's, top of the list as soon as we get back. I mean, there's nothing more exciting than hearing a brand new piece come to life for the first time and be in the audience to experience it, because if you're in the audience, you're making a contribution to that new piece.
Definitely. Now, I know since we can't hear the piece, I know I'm queued up and I can play an extract of something, but I wonder if maybe Marin and Anna, you can share a little bit about what we might be listening to.
Yeah, you go ahead, Anna.
Oh, sure. So I'm really excited to eventually bring Colorfield to you, and I have a really happy collaboration with the Baltimore Symphony for a few years now, and I wrote a piece for them back in 2016 called Abstractions, which was also commissioned by Bonnie. And the excerpt we're going to play now is the second movement of 5 movements. The piece honors her dear friends Rita Becker and Robert Meyerhoff. And their piece Abstractions is based on 5 pieces of contemporary art from their private collection and from the Baltimore Museum of Art. So the second piece, Auguries, is based on a massive painting actually it's an etching in 12 different panels by Julie Moretto, who's an American Ethiopian born artist, a young artist here in America. And I was drawn to it because it almost looks like a graphic score. It has a lot of energy, these sort of long arcs. It almost looks like a sort of system on the verge of collapse, or like flocks of birds. So I wanted to write a movement that has lots of energy and captures that. So the piece we're about to play is Auguries, performed by Marin and the Baltimore Symphony Orchestra.
Wonderful. So I'm going to hit play, and as I move my cursor to the beginning, I would note that we do have images of the Auguries artwork that you mentioned embedded onto the BSO's page as people are viewing this video. So I encourage everyone to look at that while they listen to this extract.
Cool.
Yeah.
Sounds great, huh, Anna?
Thank you. It's interesting to hear it through the speakers. It's like a trippy version of it.
Definitely.
Yes, I would say that this is not the broadcast quality.
Not quite.
We're
But
going from.
it's so interesting to me, Anna, how, the visual world seems to play such an important role always in your music. I've heard this rumor that sometimes when you're composing, you at the same time you paint it on you must have a big place on large panels in your studio wall. Is that really true?
It is not. This is my studio. It's a bit smaller now. But I still try and do that sometimes. I'll have, when I'm writing a piece or starting a piece, I'll have an image in mind. So I'll put that on my wall or in a sketchbook and use that to sort of structure the piece. So sometimes as the music unfolds, so does a visual representation of the piece. So they can be quite sort of symbiotic relationship between the two.
Do the visuals come first and then the oral, or does it depend?
It depends. In the case of Color Field, the piece that I look forward to premiering with the Baltimore Symphony sometime, it was the paint. There were different threads to the piece, but the main inspiration is this Rothko painting called red, yellow, orange, and red, yes, red, yellow, orange. And it's such a striking painting that I wanted to try and evoke that through the music. So in the case of Colourfield, it was really starting with that image.
Oh, and yeah, it's a fantastic painting, and it's so wonderful. The piece we just heard an excerpt from, Abstractions, was written to honor our dear friends of the BSO, Bob Meyerhoff and Rita Becker, who are huge art patrons and collectors, and so steeped in the visual. I'm wondering whether people watching, listening, would know about this condition called synesthesia, and whether that's something that you have some form of yourself, whereby when you hear a certain sound, you see a certain color.
Yeah, I definitely had that in mind. I don't think I have it, although I think maybe sort of on a less obvious way, but I did have that in mind when I was writing this pieces, because I've structured it in 3 movements. I flipped it around from the title of the Rothko, so it's actually yellow, red, orange, and I've used Scriabin as a very famous composer to have had this phenomenon. So I used his associations with tonality for this piece. So the first movement is based on D, which he associated with yellow. The second movement on D, which he associated with red, and then the last one on G, which he associated with orange. So
are the key associations, the pitch associations, consistent for every person that experienced synesthesia? Do you know?
Oh, that's an interesting question. I don't know, but I would imagine that people experience them differently.
I imagine as well. So if any of our listeners are, if you're a person that really sees images, sees colors when you hear music, this is, I guess, not that, it's unique, but not that unusual. So yeah, that's cool. Well, I can't wait to reprogram your piece and perform it. And we've been associated for a long time now. Since when? 2010 maybe? No.
Yeah, 2010 at Cabrillo Festival.
At the Cabrillo Music Festival, and we did many pieces out there. And then when I was invited to conduct the last night of the proms, they said, who would you like to write the opening new work? And I said, Anna Clyne. And you did a fantastic piece for that called Masquerade, which was fiendishly difficult. 5 minutes of, it's like a roller coaster ride, but really great. And we just recently together recorded a new cello concerto you wrote for Inbal Segef, and that's a great piece. We recorded it with the London Philharmonic. So at least we do these projects every few months together regardless.
Yeah, I feel really fortunate. So thank you for being such a support.
Oh, my pleasure. And the orchestra has a wonderful long association that we hope will continue for many years to come, and that we'll weather this this strange crisis together and hopefully stay safe.
Indeed.
Yeah.
Anna, can I ask you one quick question? I know we mentioned that the new work Colourfields was commissioned in the spirit also of Melanie Sablehouse, or in honor of Melanie Sablehouse. Could you just share with some of the BSO listeners a little bit more about her figure and role in this?
Yeah, she's really the central component of this work, Colourfield. And we first met back in, I think it's November, in New York City, and we had lunch. And as soon as I met her, she's such a warmth and a big, full of life character. And she loves the color orange. I knew this before I met her, actually. But she really loves orange, especially Hermes orange, I grew to know. So that's what made me think about art, and this Rothko painting is just a massive canvas full with orange and vibrates off the canvas. So it made me think of her warm personality. But she's a real pioneer for women in business and philanthropy. So she's been a role model for a lot of women and has had some amazing accomplishments. But I got to know her as a human being as well. We sat down and had lunch, we spoke on the phone, and I got to know about her Serbian roots, about growing up in a household with lots of music. She used to dance, her mother loved to dance too. So I've incorporated elements of her life into the piece. So the first movement, Yellow, is an old Serbian melody, which you hear very low, very slowly drawn out in the cellos and basses. And then in the middle of the movement, you hear the actual melody at the normal tempo, and then it's slowed down again. at the end. And then in the middle movement, which is red, there's lots of fiery Serbian rhythms. And she loves percussion and tambourine, so I've incorporated those. And then in the last movement, she was telling me about family holidays at the islands, which sounded very luxurious and enjoyable. So in the last movement, it starts with like vibraphones and tam-tams and sort of almost an exotic feeling sound world, as if you're sort of escaping, and to write something very beautiful in the last movement, which is orange, which takes components from yellow and red to create her signature orange. so
Sounds amazing. I can't wait to hear it. I feel like I dressed with the right color palette.
Yes, definitely. You definitely wore the right thing today, Allison.
I'll have to put it back on for whenever you schedule it.
Yeah, maybe we just before we close, we should speak maybe briefly about the idea of commissioning a work, because Bonnie has been so generous in commissioning works to honor people that she admires, friends of hers, and this act of commissioning a piece is it's something that lives in perpetuity, and it's a gift that people really treasure, especially when you have a composer that gets to know the subject like Anna has. And I really just wanted to say thank you to Bonnie in this case, and all the other donors and sponsors that have commissioned works. It's critical. Without you, there never would have been new works by Beethoven either.
Very true. I think that's a really apt point to end on. And I think we should also note that this is not the end. The music will return. We will get through this, and we will all get through it together. So thank you again both so much for joining us in this. I hope you both stay safe, happy, well, and for everyone watching, please stay safe and connected. So enjoy our new BSO offstage pages. Enjoy new content being added regularly here and on all of our social media channels. And of course, please give us a try again next week on Thursday at 5 o'clock, and we're going to see if we can get this live feed thing working. Okay? Thank you, everyone.
Great to see everybody. Thanks.
Bye-bye.
Bye.